Okay, the cable and broadband internet commission meeting for today, June 28th. Is going to begin at this point. Unfortunately, we do not have quorum. So I guess it will be sort of an informal meeting until Ash is able to get it. Do we, I forget, roll call real quick or just?
Yeah, just so it's on the
Oh.
record of who's who.
I'm Rob Capone.
My name is Luis Rodriguez.
Okay, and I'm Suzanne Woodland, Deputy City Manager, and for another few days, Deputy City Attorney.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
So I guess
The June 7th minutes, I don't think I sent you a draft.
I don't remember seeing one.
Okay,
So
so we'll just,
table
and we
it.
don't have a quorum anyway,
Yeah,
so
right.
that'll be tabled for next meeting.
Yeah, well, let's just table it till next meeting.
Okay. And then we could talk about the survey results that we kind of just briefly touched on
Yes.
at the last meeting. And if you'd like, Rob, I could quickly summarize what were the high points for me, since we were kind of doing
Yeah.
it on the fly. So we had over 500 responses to the cable survey. So we were happy with that response rate.
Mhm.
I think what jumped out for me from the survey results was the question in terms of the satisfaction of service. So if you had called for service, how satisfied were you with that service? And the way we measured that, we used a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest and the most satisfied. And what we saw in the survey results is that most folks who called for service were not satisfied with customer service. The average was 2.6. So, and then looking at the individual comments, because we did allow in the survey for people to kind of give us some more context or share what their concerns were. And certainly I saw a lot of frustration with not being able to talk to a person, like navigating that phone tree and getting to someone who could actually help them with their problem. That was at least part of what I took away from that. I don't know if anyone else had comments on that particular, the satisfaction with service, if they called for service, what your sort of view of the general comments were.
Right. I mean, yeah, definitely. It seemed like, especially in the comments, there seemed like, yeah, there were a lot of people that were dissatisfied. And I know, at least for myself, reading through a lot of them too, there was just a lot of frustration where people had frustrations and were voicing frustrations on things that we have no control over. We have no control over content. We have no control over cost. We have no control over, cost creep over time. But yeah, there definitely were a lot of people that, and I just, unfortunately, I feel like because I work a fair bit with sort of in my job out in the real world with customer service, it's definitely the way things are going is that they're definitely going much more toward a web-based or like at least an initial or chat type thing for support. And I think especially with the developments, and again, maybe I'm being a little crazier, but I think with the developments of AI, I think it's only going to continue to move in that direction. So I really don't know what to say to that either. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like it was mostly costs and then technical issues that people needed to resolve, whether it be there's from account creation, account termination, changes in price, all these things that when they need to contact them, it is difficult. And yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because it's one of those things that it's even with the introduction of AI and all these chatbots, and yes, they now send signals to your modem to reboot using the chatbot. You no longer need a person to do that. They are automating a lot of these things, and for some, it might be convenient. It is kind of convenient to be able to just tell the chat bot to reboot your modem if you need that. But for some, that might not be the best approach, or they may have more technical issues that need further investigating. And yeah, starting out with a chat bot, spending half an hour to 40 minutes with that can be infuriating, I'm sure.
Well,
Yeah.
and you need to, and I think as you get more exposure, you learn the right way to work with one of those chat devices. And I think if people who don't, or just either because they don't have the experience or they just don't have that skill set,
Mhm.
then
That
it
too.
can absolutely become infuriating.
I think this is a really good conversation because as you point out, I think we're going to see more of that push to the AI chat. And there are some people who just will continue to struggle with that way of entering the conversation because maybe they don't have the right language to, get the prompts to deliver the information that they need. And
And
Yeah.
through no fault of their own too. I
Correct.
guess I don't want to make it sound like,
Yes.
hey, you're stupid. Like, it's not that way. It's just, I think if you learn the right way, it's like anything else. Like even when you have, 10, 20 years ago with tech support too, if you knew the right way to ask the right questions, you would get immediately pushed through level 1 tech support because explaining what you did. Whereas if you didn't have that know-how, then yeah, you were, sometimes they would talk down to you, and that's definitely
Right.
also very infuriating.
Yeah, there's actually, I'm reading one exactly. They make you go through 30 minutes of texting, chat, run around before you can actually talk with a live person. Yeah, like you said, it's for people who I work in IT as well, so I'm trained in these things and I've done my fair share of getting through. But there's definitely people who that's not their forte and shouldn't need to be. But unfortunately, these things are kind of coming up as the new way of support with major companies online. Lots of stories about people who have elderly parents. That's kind of a strange one that I keep noticing. People with older parents who have been getting, they find out what the bill is and they figure out what's been going on, and they're kind of astonished, and then they too have to go through the service saga. But I'd say I'd like to quantify it in actual percentages, but it seems like almost, at least with the comments section, which I think is very granular data, like 80% of what I'm reading is cost, and the cost going up over time. And this sort of bundling of packages that just leads to just more cost in a way, which is difficult to obviously address with Comcast. I think there are some things that we can address. There's informational things that we could either work with Comcast on getting information out to people. If we can somehow dilute things that, yes, there's vulnerable communities out there that wouldn't normally have this and they wouldn't be able to navigate. So maybe a mailer to these to just, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking outside the box, but we're obviously seeing a lot of things that are outside of our scope. So I'm trying to see if there are things that we can find that are within our scope.
Or be the stone in the stone soup to get something started.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, yeah, this is a problem, but who get parties together to sort of determine how to fix it? Because yeah, I think there's, looking at the comments, is the things that I took away, which aren't necessarily, hey, Ash,
Of course.
alrighty. So actually, we're recording right now. We didn't have quorum, so we just said, all right, we'll sort of start covering some things. And if you needed to review anything, we could either give a quick overview, or you could even watch the stream. But now that you're here, actually just give your name real quick and we will then formally start them.
Ash Chicory.
All right. Okay, so we now do have quorum, so we will officially start the meeting.
Okay, Ash arrived at 4:15.
So one thing real quick, we since we didn't get copies of the minutes yet, we're just going to table that till next time, which is item 2 on the agenda. So we were just starting to discuss the survey results.
To give you a quick wrap up, we just basically discussed the sort of overall rating of Comcast being low, things that stood out is what Susan was pointing out. So we felt, 2.6 on service and a 2.4 for overall satisfaction with Comcast were just obviously things that stood out to us from the survey. And then we were kind of just going through the comments and trying to see what the general feel is, because there was a lot more sort of granular information there. And as expected, it was mostly price going up over time, packages, and how that eventually led to increases in price. And then intermixed with that was just more support issues, dealing with chatbot to get any kind of, support, and then, kind of getting a runaround to eventually get to support or person. So we were just discussing that that's kind of what it is. And then we were talking about sort of, as we're looking at this, trying to determine what's within our scope and what's outside our scope, or what's an actionable item that we should be picking up on and within this.
Right. Basically the items
Set that one aside. That's for later.
for this, okay. All right, that's good, thank you.
So one of the other pieces that I think is useful and kind of goes to what we as the commission can do in terms of helping to communicate on some of these points is, there are a number of comments about how come we don't have a competitor. And I know I often answer that question when people call with complaints, and I say, this is not an exclusive franchise agreement. We would welcome a competitor. And I think the more often we say that, we would love to have a competitor. We do think a competitor would help with both the pricing and the offerings. And the, commission and the city would welcome a competitor in the city of Portsmouth. And I think we just need to say that often, because people just assume we somehow chose Comcast
Right.
as opposed to we're
I-
regulating Comcast, which is the only really current provider in our market other than the alternative for internet options.
Yeah, one of the comment I get from people I know in the neighborhood is also, what are we doing as a city to attract new competitors, new providers? So that's one of the comment, and I'm like, if anyone is open, just like you said, they just need to come here. We won't go, fish for them. They just have to, indicate the intention.
Yeah.
So,
One of the other survey results that caught my attention and maybe caught yours was that 20% of the 473 who answered this question said they do not plan to renew cable TV. And that's obviously an impact then to the amount that the city will collect as part of the franchise fee. And then 32% were a maybe. So, we're expecting to continue, and we've talked about this in the commission before, that the number of subscribers of the cable TV portion that's offered by Comcast is likely to continue to decline over the years. So that's also stood out for me.
And I think for me, I think the thing that is the bit more of the gut punch is that before the city only gets up to a certain amount, and then everything over that goes into the PPM TV trust. So the first one that's going to lose is going to be PPM TV, and they're going to lose fast. They're going to lose right off the top. So that's something that I think I'm sure the city council knows about that, but I think it would be worth potentially us just sort of reminding them of that.
This is, so bringing up Tasha's point, why can't we solicit other internet and cable providers to come in and set up similar franchise agreements with us if the Comcast franchise agreement doesn't have an exclusivity clause?
We could certainly write a letter that invites them. I think, generally most companies are looking for, where are we going to expand? Most are always are looking at that, and they're usually making those decisions. They know in the state of New Hampshire, generally these agreements are not exclusive. So it's really for them, they're looking at the cost of deployment. And that is often, from what I've heard in the past, when we years ago talked to another provider and we're trying to get that other provider to come in, it's really the cost to deploy on the poles.
And then for us, we're kind of in this contract as well, because we're also users with drops of Comcast, where if we were to maybe bring on another provider, we wouldn't necessarily be getting drops from another provider.
Well, no,
like, we wouldn't-
because
we
it's
don't
in the
have-
because it's in the franchise agreement, they have to provide, they don't get to ratify. They come in and they get the same thing. So I would think they would have to provide drops. There'd be no,
But for as far as like our utility of that, we wouldn't,
Right.
if we already have Comcast drops and what we're, I mean, again, unless we were
Depending-
looking to switch, which at that point, now we're looking at breaking our contract with.
and again,
Comcast.
it's not really a contract. It's a franchise agreement.
Is us as you. Okay. I'll look into that,
They're-
or just
they're-
looking at it a little later.
They're providing, as part of this agreement, they're providing us drops for free, basically. It's part of that. So I look at it as like, we wouldn't be switching, like, I know for me, I have both a Roku box and I have, a couple other things. So I would be giving potentially more choice or the same choice, like I have a DVD player and I also have a Roku box. They both provide pretty much the same thing because some stuff I own that I can also stream.
What's their incentive? What's Comcast's incentive for this agreement in general? If,
They were required to have an agreement with the city, the franchise agreement with the
Okay.
city of Portsmouth and
Okay.
frankly, in any town or municipality where they provide service. So it is a requirement in order to continue to provide service.
And,
But-
and we couldn't give, we did violate any agreement if we were to incentivize people to come in here
You have to treat them equally.
equally.
I'm gonna have you pull that mic a little closer,
yep.
so, because we're just zooming it.
Sure. Yeah.
For recording purposes. In case anyone wants to.
Right.
watch.
yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, it is,
And the other thing too is it technically doesn't cost Comcast anything because they then turn around and they charge the exact same, the franchise fee is then paid by the customers. So it
Exactly.
really doesn't
yeah,
cost that other than the drops.
And that's probably a fairly marginal cost, and we can talk about that a little bit in the non-public session, because I have a little more information, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah.
I was-
no, I mean, again, no, it's just, it's, again, many of the comments were, we need more choices, we need more competition. This is, they don't want to be stuck with Comcast. So us being able to provide that information, like you do, there are other options. Us being able to provide, I think, more specific information. There are other options. These are them. This is, if you live in these areas, this is what's available. I don't know. I know that there are some things like fiber is available here and not available there. And I don't know. So that sort of granular data might help with, giving
I-
people this information.
What I tell people is to contact
Yeah.
the fiber provider, Fidium Fiber, and they will tell you whether it's at your doorstep
Mhm.
or not.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, on their website, you can even
There's like a map.
feed in, well, not even a map. You just type in your address and they will tell you what options are available. Like they provide over copper
Okay.
anywhere, but
Okay.
copper is, so like 10, or I think it's 100 top, is it 100 even tops? It might be even 10 or 25 tops. So it's barely like, it's one of those things nowadays, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not, that published transfer rate, I'm not gonna get.
I did Fidium on my end, and same thing, not available where I am, but they let you know, basically, if they
Yeah.
expanding.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's the way to tell people, contact other providers, and then the more they get, I tell that to people in my neighborhood as well, contact Consolidated, contact Fidium. The more these people hear, the more say, maybe we have a business plan there too.
And that's what it comes down to. If they can see the long-term profit in the investment in infrastructure, then they are incentivized to come and provide the service, and we would obviously work to, make that as frictionless as possible.
Right.
So, the other survey result, that we talked a little bit about last time, and I just flagged, which is for those that have used the new store, the new Xfinity store, most seemed satisfied with the new store and how that worked. And I thought it was just important to kind of note that as one of the other sort of survey results that stood out.
I guess I'd politely disagree. Like, I don't know, the average was 3.4 for the, if you've used the how satisfied were you with the service you received at the store? The average was 3.4 out of 5. So
Oh.
It's-
guess
it
maybe it's
looks, to be
relative.
honest, well, no, here was the thing. The first time I was looking at the data, I was just flashing through and I didn't see the averages and I looked at it too. And I was like, oh yeah, the highest bar is 4. Oh yeah, great. And then I looked at the average. I'm like, all right, well, crunching the numbers, obviously it's not quite as impressive.
Right.
But I guess the one thing is that at least it's something because
Right.
I don't know if you guys have ever used the Greenleaf location, but
Yes.
that was not positive at all. I mean, the only thing good about it was that the parking was close.
Yeah.
So. Any other comments that we want to talk about now in terms of the survey results?
They're very self-explanatory. It's eye-opening, right? Eye-opening.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
glad you
Absolutely
guys
right.
wanted to do it. I
Yeah.
think that was useful. So I appreciate that.
Kudos to, yeah, Jason,
we have data when we talk to
right.
Comcast, like,
We did talk about putting out the results in a public manner of some
Yep.
sort. We should also put out again, as I was saying, is like, if there's information that we should be sort of providing. One of our constituents,
Yep.
too expensive. The city should allow more cable and internet providers. So again, saying what we just said,
Right.
check these out, go to these websites. These are the other ones in the area, see if you have
Yep.
service, letting, maybe I want to go through this in a little more detail. I'll probably just do it on my own and see if I can just break these up into categories of like, this is, we had out of this many responses, 50% were priced that, to kind of figure out and see if there's any specific just things that we should answer so that when we do put out these results and say, just so that people know kind of what's going on with the rest of the
Could we potentially also do like, because we operate our own webpage, we could potentially put something, I don't know if FAQ is an appropriate
Yep.
term for it, but have like, okay, these were some of the questions or some of the points that we saw and here are the responses.
Yep.
I don't know my concern is that people are gonna look at it and they're like, yeah, I don't want to read that. But at least it would be there. So even if 10% of the people saw like, okay, this is what, because I think a lot of people just don't understand what the franchise agreement is. It's not a
contract. Yeah, you're right.
it's,
Yeah.
it's, and that, any other companies can come in. And I also don't know how much as far as data we can provide too, to say, okay, this is the number of subscribers that we've seen in this date, this date, this date. This is the information that we've been provided over, the 15-year period or whatever.
Yeah.
So that we can't necessarily make we don't publish any kind of analysis maybe, but publish just basic raw data that's available to the public, I guess, as long as we're not getting ourselves in trouble. So
I think we could do a couple of things. First, Monty, our communications guru, has been working with Stephanie and others to update the pages for the various boards and commissions. So he just informed me today, he was finishing updating in part this committee's page to allow a click here to communicate with the committee so that it would go to the chair and to the staff person supporting it so that the chair could then, or the staff person could put it on the agenda for the next meeting, like, hey, we got this communication. So we're doing that for all of our committees to make it easier for the public to communicate with committees if they can't attend a meeting. And as part of that update of the webpage for this committee, maybe what we do is I could have Monty kind of mock up and we could see if we could clean up, what is the cable commission and maybe do some of those, maybe it's not FAQ, but important points or something, just something that'll pop early on.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I could bring that mock up to you or Stephanie if she's back, because she's been dealing with some personal matters. One of us, will bring it back and you could look at a mock up for the page. So that's item number 1. I actually had that under other business to let you know we're updating the pages and this would be a good time. Second, it might be useful to do a little informational report to the city council on what we've been doing and the survey results, we could do like I generally try and keep things to one page.
Yes.
And we could put it in the agenda packet for the city council. Or if you want, you could come and speak during the public comment session, which is generally at the beginning, and just say, in your packet, in the back is a little memo from, the Cable Commission reporting on the results of the survey we did. Here's some key things to remember. And here's what we're doing. It, just 3 minutes.
Yep.
But keep it really simple. And then they also have the document in the back, a page or two of the survey results and that.
And if they want more, we'd be more than happy to provide them.
Exactly. So we could work on that for one of the August meetings, whichever one you or
Sure.
someone else, doesn't have to be you.
Yeah. I'm happy,
Put
whatever.
together.
Okay.
That might be good to let them know.
Yep.
Kind of what we found and where we are in the process. So
I got a question. Do we know loss of customer base by Comcast, percentage year over year? That's something they would tell us,
we know the subscribers.
but yes.
I have those numbers. I've had them over the years. See if I can pull the numbers
Are
for the
we, I
various years.
guess one thing are we allowed to provide that information?
There
Because-
are limits to what we can share in public.
Public.
So I believe the
Okay.
number of subscribers is
Sorry,
confidential
I
off the
spoke
top of my
off.
head.
Just
But
some-
we can talk about, the responses we got to our data. So,
Will we be able to
Sure.
talk percentages?
Percentage, yeah, I could put percentage decrease.
we'll figure that out. We
Okay.
can,
All right.
so those were the two things that I actually had under other business, which is to suggest we could do a little report with what we found from our survey and to update the page
I
for
think
this
that's an
commission.
awesome idea. Yeah, because I think that point too, that then it's another much more public, much more watched forum
Yeah.
to provide that information to show, okay, yeah, we did have a survey. Here are the results.
Yep.
So, and potentially, I guess maybe I'm being a little overeager here, but by us presenting that information and mentioning that there's more information available on our
On our
page,
Yep,
then at that point, if people are looking for information, they at least know, okay, hey, I can go to the city website and search
Yep.
for Cable Commission and then go from there, find our page and that information if they're looking for it.
Drive traffic.
exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Or at least, yeah, trim the hedge so that they can see.
Right.
That's
Okay.
good.
No, that's good. Yeah, we need visibility at the high level.
Yeah.
Because I got the same thing, the belief is there's one person in my neighborhood, like, why, why is the city selecting Comcast?
Right.
So I told them, I just
So-
said, we don't select them. This is, a franchise agreement that we have with them. And their providers, he asked me the same question all the time, so, but we just had to make it clear, we do not select.
Right.
So-
Anybody, yep, this is it, that anybody who wants to come in has to abide by the agreement.
Yep.
But yep.
Yeah. But then there's also like a blurred line that they talk about, TV versus, streaming,
Stream.
right? Because now on your Streambox Xfinity, you have an app, you could stream from there as well. Right, you get a Roku, you have the Xfinity app.
Mm.
So those are all the questions they asked me. So I told them, just do a public comment once, I told them. Just because we'd like to hear it.
Yep.
That's.
Well, they can even email the public comment to us and just to be read, like if it's only a case where they just want to present without any kind of rebuttal.
Check, they do have the sort of submit,
Oh, good. Yeah. Yay.
to submit, contact the chair and staff liaison,
And
so
that-
that's easy.
So is that
Yeah.
operational already? Like.
That is.
Apparently, like I said,
There's-
Monty caught me in the hall,
And there's a
Trying to-
copy of the
franchise agreement on
franchise
there.
agreement, so it's all pretty good, but I think, the little paragraph at the top, we could. Or
Edit?
just put a link to go down for like, I don't know what it would be called, like FAQ, yeah. I think that the FAQ is a thing,
Right,
'cause
no,
it
no.
does seem like we do get these, like, there are a lot of things that we're
Yeah.
constantly being asked.
And I only mention that because like, okay, you say that nowadays, like 20 years ago, people are like, what?
Yeah,
But nowadays, everybody understands what an FAQ
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
So,
so it's just like, yeah, the
or not everybody. but-
outlining a lot of these
Yeah.
things for the public to kind of decipher a little better would be better. would
Yeah,
be-
you're demystifying the agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
Common
All right, I will work with Monty and or Stephanie to bring, we'll
Yeah,
work on a mock
That
up.
might be one of the, definitely one of the things, because like, we have the agreement here.
Yep.
But Tenny, if I use not a lawyer again, they
Right.
don't know what is this contract, so
Yeah.
we might maybe, give like a sort of, what is the agreement?
Different blurb.
What does it sort of achieve and
Yeah.
what does it not do? And, like, what is it not? Like, no, this isn't a exclusive or whatever, we can
Right.
talk about that. But I think like a quick summation of the agreement would also be something that we could put in that FAQ.
That's a really good idea. 'cause
Yes,
I
I
mean,
mean, the way I do that is that I always say, what's, in scope in this agreement is out of scope.
Yeah, yeah, like what is the scope of this exactly? So that people, because again, putting it there. no, nobody's
So
gonna
this way you
read
answer the, oh, okay, that's out of scope.
61 pages, yeah.
yeah, no, it's,
So
it's a good bedtime.
I
reading.
did that with the report, same thing, it was 72 pages. I did one page of in scope, out of scope.
Cool.
That's it. All right, good.
All right, if you're ready, and Ash and I can provide the
Yes,
report.
yeah, let's
Yep.
do that. Just feeling.
So I thought it would just be useful that, Ash and I can give you the summary of what happened at the Public Access Financial Advisory Committee, which is the committee that looks at the request annually of PPM TV to request the release of funds from the trust. The committee voted on June 15th to distribute to recommend that $175,500 be released to PPM TV. And the trustees of trust funds at their June 21st meeting did distribute the funds to PPM TV. And so that money helps run PPM TV, and a little more money was released this year from the trust in light of the fact that PPM TV is looking for relocation options. So I don't know if you want to add anything more to
Well,
that.
Just one thing was, so they're looking at two spaces right now. One is next to Bolorama.
Mhm.
Right, and the next one is in the Newington Mall. So one of the concern was, because of funding, they can't make long-term agreements, rental agreement.
Mm,
They have to do year by year, and that kind of eliminates a lot of
Right,
commercial property rental. So they said if something we could consider is more, for them to make longer commitment and for us to make longer commitment. So I think it was taken into advisement by the city manager as well. So that's one of the concern. They have to go year by year.
And that would need us, if they wanted more money to be from the franchise fee to go into the trust, which is now effectively almost exhausted with this latest disbursement, they would need to basically petition the city council to change the policy that is currently in place, whereby the first 360,000 of the revenue that's received from that franchise fee would
Yeah.
be changed, that it would not be that much, and more would then pour into the trust. So that's a political decision.
Yep.
mm.
So. All right. Any other questions or? Okay. All right.
We put it out as far as there are no attendees right now, right?
Yep, no public
So,
comment.
yep, there'll be no public comment. All right,
Okay. Other business,
anything else other than the,
the only thing I had, other than wanting to talk about the website and a potential little report with the survey results, would be that I did get a call from another resident who I assisted to get in touch with, get a higher level of
Yeah. and that's-
care,
and
service
that's like-
and
yeah,
care.
right.
I have not heard back from her. I told her to call me back if the issue wasn't resolved. As a resident at Spinnaker, and had multiple outages and just delays in getting the service technician out. So I raised all those issues with Comcast.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, when I look at at least the more recent complaints and service challenges, a number of them are in condominium associations. Maybe in part age and just the management of the, rights, it leaves our right of way and goes into, different,
Right, well, because I would think.
Different
especially
conduits
since
and-
I know
yeah.
with coaxial cable, it's very susceptible to termination issues or issues due to poor termination or drop in quality of termination. And who owns the wire there?
Right.
Is it is it the condo that owns the distribution wire or? we
I don't know. I just know
obviously,
that
if
it
you were
just,
to rerun all of that,
right.
Well,
I
they
just
did
know
it-
there's seems to be more issues lately with condominium owners.
Okay, yeah, because I remember for me, when I did my front yard from the road, they said, no, so anything from your house to the road is you. Yes, but anyway, it was not much of a distance. But since I was having my front yard done, I told, I had the guy dig in a
oh, so
trench.
you're underground.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then they came in and did it, but they charged me.
Mhm.
That was in 2018.
Oh, okay, 2000, and that was in 2018.
2018,
I
yeah.
thought it was like $2,000.
No,
Whoa.
they charged me to put this from the road into my house.
Yep.
It was just an old line, so. I think they were on the same thing. They might say, we bring it to the condominium, but what's in there, it's not us.
Right. Yeah. So it was just something I've been kind of noting that it
Yeah.
seems to be in that infrastructure more often. So. All right.
Would that be something just for an informational purpose, we could get an answer about, or is that not worth our time? Or your time?
Whether they're seeing, whether
Well,
that's their
where exactly
perspective.
where exactly do they draw the line as far as charging? Like, do they charge to the exterior wall? Whereas, with a condo, the way with condo laws
Oh.
that the condo owns to
Yes,
the
the-
wall and then everything inside the wall is
is
individual.
yours. They might be willing to give us some more definition on that. I can ask.
Right.
Yeah. And it may vary from condo to, to depending on the infrastructure, but
As well as they might be willing to,
yeah,
do a little more on a case by case basis, but the letter of the policy is this. Cause I'm just thinking like, okay, I know of the various houses that I've owned, the quality of the cable, just talking with the rep, that the grade of cable has changed like 3 or 4 times in the last 20 years, 30 years. And it's not, I wouldn't think that they would be changing that out regularly.
Right.
But maybe we could potentially push it, or at least if we know what the policy is, we can better advise people on what their rights are,
right. Get all your neighbors together,
right?
it's a,
Complain together, yeah.
Right, and that's probably one of the property management that we need to hire contractors to rip walls and redo cables. So I don't think Comcast would do that.
No,
So,
but there may be other ways they could run the cable, like.
Right.
potentially.
because the point of failure is they will tell you when we bring it to the building, our test is telling us you're getting what you're paying.
Right.
We're not responsible for your modem, for your router.
Right.
No, that's what I was told myself.
Yep.
So that's why.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right. So let's see, I guess that's all other business. Okay, so I guess at this point, we will move into closed session.
okay, so you need a motion.
Motion to move into closed session.
I'll
All
second it.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so hold on. Let me. Stop recording.